again, another new band for the channel. A pretty unknown band as well. I doubt many of you, if any, are going to know about this band. But they've actually been around since 2001. They're from the United States, so they're not from a small town place. They're kind of from the United States, New Jersey, so pretty hefty place that they come from. They've done 4 albums, this being their 4th, started in 2001. And yeah, so they've been around for a while, and for America, it shouldn't be that difficult to find. And 4 albums out, yet they're not a big band. And this album, which is a self-titled, just Suspyre, if that's how you pronounce it, this thing came out in 2012. So a fair few years ago, seeing that we're about to, well, at least for this video, we're about to go into the year 2020. So, been a fair few years. Now, I don't know if the band's actually stopped, so if people are kind of interested what's kind of happening, why have they been gone for so long, I don't know what to tell you. If you go on their Facebook page, the last post they did was like 2018. So, since 2012, they have been on Facebook consistently. And they haven't posted anything about, you know, packing it in or stopping. But obviously the fact that it's been now 2019 and they haven't posted anything, at least from what I know, because I don't actually have Facebook, I just kind of go on and see what Facebook gives me. That's a whole year. Now, technically they could have just disbanded and not have been bothered to tell anyone, which is kind of bad that they would do that. Or maybe they are actually doing something. Maybe they are actually doing an album. I know a band, Paralydium, which I'm really looking forward to, who are going to be releasing an album in 2020. They released just an EP in 2015 and then kind of went silent. And then in, you know, late 2019, they've popped back like, sorry, we've been silent. We've got an album. It's done. Here it comes, 2020. It's like, oh. So this can sometimes happen. They do kind of disappear, and with these smaller acts, it's like trying to get it out there, how to get it out there, record it when the funds kind of come through and everything. So a lot kind of goes on, and there's a lot of difficulties actually pushing an album out when you're a small band. So that could be the thing. If you look on Metal Encyclopedia about this band, it says that they're still active. So I'm hoping that is the case, but as I say, last album is this one, which was 2012. So just a brief summary. I really like this album. It's kind of symphonic power metal from what is written on the Metal Encyclopedia. For the band, just progressive symphonic metal. I technically say that this album spans a hell of a lot of genres. You can get some screams. Well, there's only one song with screams, and it's pretty pathetic, but that is a genre in itself. You get some, you know, typical metal. You get, you know, your power metal. You get your progressive metal. You get some melodic metal. You get some folk stuff. You get some jazzy stuff. You get saxophone shit. You get a hell of a lot of things, and then, you know, your typical metal. So it just spans so much. You'll get some metal, then you'll get some metal with screams, then you'll get something a bit more kind of melodic, then you'll get something a bit more kind of jazzy with your kind of saxophone, then you get something with a bit more of a kind of, you know, beat about it, and then you get something melodic and kind of folk style of stuff. And then you get some Latin style things, something that sounds kind of Mexican. Then it kind of goes to a theme that is the theme for Alton Towers, which is a theme park here, which is rather weird. So they do a hell of a lot. So just the fact that you get 10 tracks, it clocks in at an hour, 1 minute. They just span so many genres and just throw so much at you. I just think it's unbelievable, just the fact that there is so much in this album and it goes so many places and it's done so well. I'd like them to continue, because you don't really get a band that really kind of spans multiple genres. They usually kind of stick to their genre, just like, well, we're power metal, we have to do power metal now till the day we fall flat dead as a doornail. And it's just like, I don't see why you have to. Seeing that this band kind of shows you can be really, really good and constantly keep an interest by constantly doing different things. It doesn't kind of just like, well, it doesn't work trying to get folk and then jazz and this and this and this and this and this all together, and then it's not consistent, doesn't flow well. Well, it does, because this band does it. So I hope the band stick together. As I say, I really, really like them, and I really think you should check them out. So that's the overall impression. I love the album. There is a hell of a lot there on offer, as I've just said. So now I'm going to go track by track, starting with the first track, Chaser. So this track is clocking in at 4 minutes 49 seconds, so nearly 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is kinda, the typical length you would expect from a decent metal song, unlike, the fake crap that you get, which are like 2 bloody 3 minutes that just completely pointless waste of time, them sort of metal tracks. So quite kind of like the typical length you could expect, just like an intro, your verse, your verse, chorus, bridge, maybe a bit of a solo, but just shy of 5 minutes. This track kind of crams a hell of a lot in. The intro goes on for at least a solid minute, and it has a lot of variation to it. It's not just, here's the intro and we're just doing it for a minute. It's like, no, it changes 3 if not 4 times. I actually think they change it 4 times. So 4-part intro for a minute. It's only 5 minutes, this track. Shy 5 minutes. Like, what the hell? So, starting off, it's quite dark. There is a lot of bass for the rhythm of this kind of song. So your guitars and your drums and everything, the drums are very kind of heavy and thick, and the bass is really thick. And even the guitars, they're probably playing, kind of 7, strings or something. With some pretty, powerful kind of pickups and everything, and some heavy gain through the amps, because it is really kind of muddy, the sound. So everything being the case, it is quite dark and quite kind of broody starting out. The lead guitarist actually kind of comes out at the second kind of change, and it's quite thin and everything, which probably needed to cut through all that bass. If the kind of lead was a bit more kind of warm and everything, it may kind of melt into that rhythm section, but being quite high and piercing, I think helps it probably cut through a bit better than if it was to be a bit more warm and nicer in sound and tone. I think it would just kind of be ruined just with kind of what the rhythm has gone for. So yeah, you actually do get a lead kind of interlude and everything. It sounds quite nice, it's kind of pleasant. Not doing anything spectacular or anything, it's not going upbeat and crazy or anything like that. It's not slow and dull. It's just keeping this kind of eerie kind of feeling going, just this nice kind of lead and everything, just kind of adding a bit more kind of musicality to it, and just giving a bit more kind of lift to the kind of song. Then after that, it kind of goes a bit more kind of gent style with its play for the third kind of change. And then for the kind of fourth and final change, you get the keys coming in a bit more kind of prevalent, so then you kind of get the kind of heightened aspect from the key section. So as you notice, the first portion of the song, they kind of focus on kind of more bass and moody stuff, and then the kind of guitar kind of comes and cuts through with something a bit more kind of heightened. Then it goes gent, which is a bit more kind of bass rhythmic orientated. And then going to the keys being more prevalent, it kind of goes back to that kind of heightened state. So they kind of keep shifting in and out of that, which is a good kind of mindset to have, in my opinion, and just kind of well executed. And just kind of constantly changing it up, kind of lengthening the song out, showing musicality instead of just shove the vocals straight in there and just have it all about the vocals, because metal, it's about the instruments as well. So getting into your verse, the verse again is quite bass heavy. The keys kind of more a bit kind of subtle here. It's definitely kind of bass orientated and thick in sound. As for the vocalist, he has a great voice. He reminds me of the Borealis singer, Borealis being a band I have reviewed on the channel. So kind kind of reminiscent of the Symphony X Russell singer, yeah, Borealis vocalist, if you know. So, you know, Symphony X, Borealis style. I do think he's better than Symphony X. I don't really appreciate his voice. But he's around there, definitely kind of more kind of bass heavy, his voice as well. And yeah, he sounds good, and it's definitely more kind of dark, but at times in the verse it does kind of go a bit more kind of elevated, where the music kind of just instead of being kind of broody and kind of gent style, just, you know, doing these thick power chords, they kind of just open it up and everything, and just the keys kind of take nice little flourishes and everything along with the kind of leads. And as it goes, the kind of lead guitarist kind of comes in and gives a kind of interlude as it kind of goes into them kind of key kind of lifts and everything, to just kind of add a bit more of a kind of higher kind of tone to it. And then going into the chorus is great. It just has that kind of galloping thing, so dun 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 dun. So it does the dun 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 dun, and then has the kind of pauses in there, which kind of adds this nice beat, because the vocalist kind of gets into this really nice kind of singing kind of groove, and then mixed with the kind of gallops and the kind of pauses, it just gives you this really nice simple beat to kind of follow. So it kind of gets really, really, really catchy for its chorus, and everything kind of coming off of how the chorus ended, from going from kind of starting off brooding to kind of starting getting a bit more elevated and a bit more kind of musical based, getting into this really catchy kind of chorus. And leading out of there, we get a keyboard solo, which is a little kind of technical, has a bit of kind of frills in there, but doesn't kind of overplay it. And then you get back into the verse, which is kind of similar in style, but then we kind of get a kind of guitar lead, and then it kind of doesn't go to the chorus. It starts going to this kind of really freaky breakdown style of thing, where the guitars and the keys are just really going completely insane and bombastic and crazy. And that starts leading into the guitar solo, which again is a very good solo. It's got some nice length to it. And it's got a bit of kind of shred about it, and a little bit of melody, but it's definitely more on the kind of technical aspect aside. And again, very thin in sound, so it's got this very kind of tinny kind of sound to it. And then that starts leading back into the kind of pre-chorus thing, where the song is a bit more kind of musical, where it has that kind of guitar kind of lead interlude, just adding a bit of melody under the kind of bass heavy rhythm section with the keys. Kind of doing more flourishes as that pre-chorus kind of progresses, and then it gets you back into that chorus aspect, where it gets that kind of nice, great, catchy groove on. Some parts of the chorus it does kind of slow down and kind of just kind of calm down for, you know, these brief little moments, and then kind of gets back into this really nice, energetic, really catchy stuff. It's still bass heavy and everything, so it's not, you know, going to something that's, you know, Paramore style. It's definitely got the bass to it, but it's just something that's just memorable and catchy, and you just enjoy listening to it because it's so pleasant to the ear, because it's just so catchy. So we've got a fantastic intro. We've got a nice verse, which definitely doesn't just kind of stick to the same pattern. It's an extended kind of verse. You've got a pre-chorus, which kind of elevates itself into the chorus being really catchy and having its little somber moments. You get a key lead, you get a guitar lead, you got great vocals. It's a fantastic track. So let's get into the next one, which is Tranquility and Stress. Alright, Tranquility and Stress is 9 minutes 58 seconds, so pretty much 10 minutes. It's a bloody long track. So as you can imagine, Suspyre shoved a fuck ton into this song. It is insane, so trying to speak about every aspect is going to be a bitch. But starting off, it starts tranquil, it's very calm and collected. It's kind of going for a kind of more blues aspect. You get these kind of like clean, maybe acoustic kind of guitar, and it's just doing all these kind of blues style playing. And then it kind of starts just adding a bit more notes and everything, instead of being as kind of a blues aspect. It just kind of adds a bit more notes to kind of get you back into where the song needs to kind of go. So when that happens, you know, the kind of typical metal stuff comes in. You get really thick bass kind of sounds and stuff that the band really goes for, and you get some keyboards coming in to heighten it as per usual. And as for this first verse, it's actually calm again and tranquil with some melodic singing. You got some kind of like clean channel guitars, some nice kind of keys and stuff, and it's just very calm, very relaxed. And then it doesn't last very long, and then it kind of blows into the kind of stress portion part where everything gets quite quick paced. Instead of kind of going slow, it kind of quickens the pace to above, you know, average kind of pace, with, you know, the kind of heavy guitars, and then the singing pace being quickened. Just everything is going a lot faster, it's a lot heavier, and then all of a sudden they kind of stop for an acoustic play, and then it kind of bombastically just kind of attacks, and then it stops and goes back to the acoustic guitar picking, then bombastic again. Then it kind of goes into something a little bit more in the kind of stress bombastic nature, but it kind of misses the tranquility and stress together. We've got a kind of heightened bass and aggression and a quick pace. Yet the lead guitarist kind of adds this really kind of nice, pleasant kind of lead over the top to kind of add this kind of tranquil aspect to it and take it away from the stress. But as for the rhythm, it kind of remains. And yeah, then it kind of goes back into the kind of stress portion where everything gets a lot more kind of aggressive, and it kind of just keeps doing all these kind of switches of kind of adding kind of these kind of nice kind of guitar lead elements, and going to really kind of calm aspects, to then musical elements, to heighten keys and heighten bass and everything, fast pace, slow pace, and the songs is kind of constantly is like this until the halfway portion where things get a little kind of dark, but the pace slows and gets a bit kind of calmer, but there's a more kind of dark tone with some kind of like growls. And then the instruments start, you know, flaring up a little bit more, and then you start getting into the aspect of the song which kills the track, kinda. Now, I don't skip the track, I listen to the track and I really appreciate what is there, but there is just an aspect, which is just one aspect, which is in this song for just a small portion, and then the rest of this album, that, as I say, is like an hour, just doesn't do it, so it kind of makes it feel out of place for it. You get Screamo. You don't see it anywhere else in the album, it never crops up, it doesn't have any other place. And even in this 10-minute track, it's just this kind of little kind of chunk of the song this takes. And for that chunk, it's just like, this just doesn't fit, it doesn't flow. And it sucks. I hate Screamo to begin with, so for this point, I kind of clock out until he shuts up, and it gets back into what Suspyre do really, really well, which is a lot of variation and variety of music. I know Screamo people will say it's variety, but it's shit and it's not music. So there you go. So, you know, when he eventually shuts up, it starts leading into what is the solo. This band likes kind of doing a lot of build-up for their solos, so the instruments just do a lot of bombastic things and some crazy sounds, and they'll do a rhythm like this and a rhythm like this, and they'll do a pattern like that and a pattern like this, and then eventually the solo comes up. So there's a lot of build and just kind of like musicianship of these kind of like riffs that the band kind of puts forward. And they're pretty good. It's not like a standard, you know, a power chord riff. It is something bombastic and crazy, and just adds to what kind of tone each track kind of gives. So the build-up actually is fine, no matter how long it is. You're not just kind of waiting for the solo, and it's not something where you're like, God, they're really dragging this thing out. It's like, no, they're actually just showing some kind of musical kind of variation, and it's you know, it's welcomed, it's pleasant. You don't notice that it's actually extending the song out, and making it longer and building to the solo. You just kind of take it for what it is. For the solo in this, the keyboard starts and there is a lot of, I believe it's wah pedal, so that he just kind of goes crazy with the wah. I don't think it's the whammy, I'm pretty sure he's using wah pedal to get that. I'm really sure that's the wah pedal. But he just goes absolutely insane on the friggin' thing. Giving it this really kind of whiny, kind of like the guitar's like crying in this really kind of dark pain, you know, not like a high thing, but a horror kind of whine and everything. And it sounds like kind of painful, and it's cool, but it's a very kind of creepy, dark kind of sound. It's not something where you're like, that's very pleasant and musical. What a beautiful solo. It's like, no, this is a very kind of gruesome sounding solo he's going for, and very kind of disturbed. Nevertheless, it is a good solo, and then you kind of get the kind of keys kind of following, kind of in line, but obviously it's kind of limited because you don't put a wah pedal through a keyboard. I just don't think you can. So he kind of follows in line with it being a bit more kind of stressful, but then the band go out of the stress thing and then kind of go more into the tranquility kind of aspects of the song, where they do something, you know, a bit more kind of piano-y aspect, something a bit more kind of rhythmic, but not really going for that first portion where the song starts, you know, with, you know, bluesy style of thing. So it doesn't go full-blown tranquil, but it goes more in realm with that as the solo progresses. Then you get into your really catchy chorus with that really beautiful kind of leads that flows through it. That really adds to the musicality of it. If you took that lead out, the song would just kind of like plummet. The lead adds so much to it. Is the vocalist and this lead just kind of work in tandem together, just to make this really great flowing beauty to this chorus. It really works hand in hand. So if you just take that lead out but just leave all the rhythm still in and the vocals, you would think, well, it would still be good. No, it would suffer incredibly. The lead adds so much to it. So that is that track. Let's move on to The Divided Sun. So this track is coming back a little bit shorter at 4 minutes 57 seconds, so pretty much 6 minutes, so relatively decent length track. What's good about this track is it kind of goes for, it loses that kind of heavy bass that has been in the previous two tracks. Like Tranquility and Stress obviously had this small element of tranquil moments, but did have a heavy kind of more emphasis on the stress aspect of that track, and then Chaser was a lot more kind of, you know, that heavy metal bass orientated. As for The Divided Sun, goes for something a little bit more melodic based, and then when things kind of kick up into a higher gear, it's just a bit more kind of musical. So even though it's in the high gain category, it goes for something with more melody and musical about it, and remove that kind of, you know, heavy, broody kind of bass you know, vibe out of it. So The Divided Sun is just a nice kind of change of pace, which the band, as I said before I got into the track by track, is what this band does pretty well. It constantly changes the pace in each track and changes kind of vibes and genres. So starting off with this, the lead guitarist is doing this really nice lead interlude and everything. The rhythm, it's just kind of, you know, bass, but it's not got that really kind of heavy bass vibe to it. It's a lot thinner in sound, so it's not as, you know, bass heavy. As well as the drums, it's just light, which is really nice to kind of get that now. Because I'm a little kind of tuckered out from the heavy bass, so it's nice to get something a bit lighter. And as I said, that lead from the lead guitarist, it's not as thin, it's got a bit more kind of warmth and nice brightness about it. It could just be the aspect of just what he's playing just sounds a bit kind of brighter and more kind of cheerful, along with the bass being took out. It definitely sounds like there's a bit more warmth in what he's doing, because that's just how the thing comes across. So that's very pleasant, and then you get into your verse, which is really nice. Like as far as melody goes, usually with bands, when they go into a more melody orientated aspect, they just sound like they do it for the sake of, we need a melody in there, and they don't really focus on giving you something that is you know, beautiful or kind of touching, or has these nice soars about it, and just has this really beautiful flow about it. It's just like, well, it's slow and it's boring. As for the verse in this, it just has this beauty about it. It's so well done. Like, the voice isn't just like slow and depressed, it's just like, it's melodic, but he just has this really nice elegance about him, which makes it sound like he doesn't sound bored and depressed. He kind of sounds like he's really into this and he's really invested, and he really shows the beauty of his voice. It comes out well. Even the kind of instruments, they just play with along with this voice, just being just not, yes, slower pace and, you know, melodic, but having, you know, this mindset of not being depressed. So yeah, it's slow, it's melodic, but it's not depressed. It has this like right element about it, which makes it a bit more kind of uplifting and more musical based. So the instruments are kind of clean and everything, and you know, sound pleasant. Voice sounds really great, and he definitely kind of doesn't keep the kind of one pitch with his voice. He kind of keeps lifting it up and down to, you know, just give it that kind of variation and life to it, so he doesn't kind of just sound dead. And then as for the kind of chorus, you get something a bit more kind of, you know, open. There's nothing bombastic about it. His voice just kind of goes into some kind of more, he uses more kind of soaring aspects of his voice here in the band. It's kind of just, you know, power chords. There's nothing, you know, vast going on. It's just something, you know, catchy, kind of simple. The voice kind of soars at points, and they just kind of open the sound up a bit and just kind of give it a bit more kind of lift as you know, they leave the clean behind. Then after that you go, you know, back into your clean and everything, and then the kind of keys have a bit more kind of presence. As for the solos in this, the solos, again, they're incredible. There's kind of like piano kind of stuff in there, and the guitar has some nice kind of melody about it. He has a fairly quick pace about him, like he really kind of jumps about with the solo in this track. So he, it's not, you know, fast, but it's not slow. He just kind of keeps picking all these things and then kind of jumping around. So it kind of sounds quite jumpy and bombastic, and then the kind of, you know, keys, as I say, go for like these piano kind of aspects, and then kind of comes back out again, and you know, kind of starts ending on its chorus. So yeah, technically 5 minutes this track, and it's just got these really beautiful verses about it. The intro sounds fantastic with that lead. The chorus, quite simple, but not in the same way, just because the voice just does so much to kind of, you know, work with the song, and the band, you know, really back him up. So it kind of comes across as what they're doing is more simple than what they have done, but the way they've, you know, actually been songwriters about this and actual musicians, they've used it to give it that lift and emphasis to really make it something quite unique and special. And again, as for the solo, the keys and guitar, brilliant, a lot of build up, great length to it. The keys actually do the kind of lead for a small portion of what the guitar did at the start of the track, so it's nice to hear it from the key aspect, because the guitar sounded awesome. So that's the Divided Sun, so let's get into Still Bending the Violet. So this is the melodic track, technically, Still Bending the Violet. It's 6 minutes 14 seconds, so yet again we've got a pretty decent length song, not something really short and bloody pathetic. So this starts out with saxophones, so another instrument which is absolutely perfect. It is actually played by, oh god, I can't remember, I think it was the lead guitarist. Basically the saxophone is actually being played by one of the band members. It's not a special guest, it's not something faked and kind of pulled off of a computer program, you know, pre-done. It is actually one of the band members actually playing this. showing his skills. So everything you hear on this album is basically all the band, so they can kind of play a fair few different things. So yeah, starting off with sax, so you've got this really kind of jazzy blues fucking sax playing, probably more blues based because it's a bit more kind of sad. Jazz is a little bit more kind of upbeat. This is not like that. So you get a little bit of jazz. Fucking as you said, it wasn't a little bit of blues at the beginning with the saxophone just adding this whole new instrument. All this variation, which is great. It's always good to kind of hear the variation and hear a different instrument showing the musicality of it, the musicianship. It's always great to kind of see that in metal, because I think metal's a great platform to kind of show all these different musical techniques and talents, because that's what metal's about, in my opinion. So when the kind of sax packs it in and shuts up, we get clean guitars. And they sound really beautiful. They have this really kind of nice elegance about them. It sounds great. The keys are elegant, the bass is elegant, and when the vocalist comes in, he sounds elegant and everything. He just has this beauty about him, the way he kind of sings his lines with I have to be really down here and whisper and press. It's like, he has this grace about the way he sings it, and just sounds really kind of invested into it, which really kind of helps. As for other singers that go melodic, just go quiet, and it's just like just dull. There's no emotion. As for this guy, he just kind of flows with emotion. He just sounds great, melodic and heavy. He's just a fantastic vocalist. I think he really works with this. And again, working with these instruments, they really work in tandem together. The kind of clean electric guitars sound beautiful, mixing in with the kind of keys and everything. There's a little kind of aspects of the songs which go a little kind of folk style, where everything kind of goes a little bit kind of more. It's not really upbeat, but instead of kind of focusing on it remaining melodic at all, it starts going a bit kind of more, just with a clean guitar, it's just kind of fretting something and letting it kind of sing out and everything. Because for certain aspects of the song, the guitars are kind of a bit more kind of brasher. It's dum 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 dum. So just kind of adding a bit more kind of a straightforward kind of more beat element to it. Just to kind of change the flow. If everything is just dun 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 dun, for 6 minutes straight, like, it sounds nice, but it will get tiring after bloody 6 minutes. You can't have too much of a bloody perfect thing. So it's nice just to kind of change that up, so you get elegant kind of beauty. There's elements in the song where the lead guitarist will actually just put in this short little kind of lead little kind of interludes that is played in a blues way, so just just add a little kind of flourish here and there in a blues style, which is great because that's a new genre, a new variation, something new lead from him. As in the other tracks we've gotten kind of more kind of heavy, dark, kind of brood and speed, upbeat style things. Now we get something a bit more kind of heartfelt, melodic, and a whole new genre from him, which is blues. So great with that. As for the actual solo he does, it's really a lot more kind of melody based. So it's clean, it's melodic, it's very nice. He still has these little aspects of speed as he kind of keeps progressing, but it's definitely kind of this kind of beautiful melodic thing. So that is kind of how the track goes for the majority. But then it gets to a point where it just kind of goes back into it's metal. It's not metal melodic, it's just, this is just pure metal. So dirty ass guitars come in, the bass and everything kind of comes in, everything kind of gets a bit more kind of energetic and everything. And it's still catchy as hell and has this great beat to it and everything, but it just ramps everything up. And then as it keeps progressing, it just kind of gets quicker and quicker. And then when the vocalist stops, you get the the typical aspect of the band where they kind of like doing all these kind of riffs and things and just go insane. So you just get this massive section where the band is just going absolutely fucking crazy with the instruments, doing all these random fucking things. And then it just gets way intense, and then as it gets super intense, it just cuts out, you get your verse, and then back into that melodic chorus. And that is pretty much the song. So this will be it for part 1, because the video is getting quite long now. So part 2, I don't know when that's going to be out, because obviously it's technically nearly Christmas. And then it'll be New Friggin' Year, and my family is coming over, which I haven't seen for like a whole bloody year. And obviously there's another video I need to do, which is basically my albums of the year, which I'm fucking dreading. So I've got all that to do, but obviously I will get back to this. I'm not going to just forget that the bloody thing exists. So yeah, so far at this point, the band's fantastic, so much to fucking offer, and I really recommend it. If the band watches this, please can you fucking comment to say if you're still together, because I really want to know if I can expect something from you, because this album is just fucking amazing. So much musicianship, great solos, great vocals, so much different variation of genres and instruments and things. Songs packed with all these variations and layers and everything going on, just absolutely superb. So I'd like that, but that is if they fucking watch. So until the next video, I'll see you in the next. Until then, bye guys.